In 3, 2, 1. This is Dave Schuman here with Dennis Adamo. David Schuman here with Dennis Adamo, someone I've known for a long time, way back in the beginning of the when people talk about the .com boom and bust. Me and Dennis were a part of it in some good and some maybe not so good ways. And Dennis has been he's one of the most interesting entrepreneurs to me. He's been involved in tech basically from the get-go, especially with respect to the internet and the whole boom of that. He's now involved with spaceout VR, which is a company that's focusing out. We'll talk a lot about this, but obviously virtual reality, which is one of the biggest technologies, along with and they're integrated, I guess, with AI and probably analytics. And I think those are the three areas that are huge booms in tech, leveraging the infrastructure. So I have Dennis Adamo with me. He is one of the most interesting people that I've met in my lifetime of business, from his success to his willingness to continue to try new adventures. So without further ado, Dennis, thanks for coming on.
Hi, David. Thank you for that great introduction. I just want to say that it's a pleasure to be here. I'm really glad that after 20 years of knowing each other and working together, and it's really 20 years, I think, or maybe 17 years for that matter, because when we met up and built out the world's first investor crowdfunding platform, VentureHighway.com, together, that's basically what started us. So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to have also seen your success, and I think that a lot of it goes in circles. So let's definitely talk about why we're still here and what keeps us ticking, because I think a lot of people should be interested in that story. So again, thanks for the intro. So yeah, I like to consider myself one of the pioneers of the digital media scene in New York. I started out in '94 with a company called Pseudo Programs. I was the co-founder. It started as a chat company, then transformed into an internet broadcasting company, raised $32 million from the likes of Intel and Microsoft. Unfortunately, burst in the bubble of '99, 2000. But within that, I also had equity in about 7 or 8 companies that also kind of blew up in that first bubble. So that was a big lesson for everybody. So after that, I think my whole strategy was a little different about how to approach, my career. So I, kind of looked at it as more of a let me instead of focusing on my own inspirations, let me try to work on some bigger projects. So I really focused on startups and large companies, So I worked with a company called New Tech Business Services. We built out an SBA lending platform, but I was the director of the executive VP of the internet group inside, which was a new company. I ended up doing that over and over both on a consulting basis and as an employee. So I did for 5 years, I was based in Russia. I ran actually I was there for 12 years, but 5 years of that, I ran Yahoo Russia CIS, which again was like a startup for Yahoo. It never took off because the funding was nixed by the final CEO, as I went through 4 CEOs, all with different views on Russia. But then moving forward, I did another internal startup at LG in Russia called LG Ad. So we were the ad group inside of LG, and our job was to basically optimize the budgets for digital marketing. So I was director of digital marketing, and that was another life learning experience, and it was highly successful up until the sanctions and so forth started, which brought me back here and led me to create this new company, Spaceout VR, which is a huge deal, and it's an amazing company, and we're really, really just amazed right now at the growth in the industry, the interest. Recently, we were on NBC TV. Our product was featured in a comedy called Superstore. It's hysterical. You know, they used our VR glasses, which are basically here. Well, they come in little boxes like this. But, you know, these are designed to run on any smartphone. So we've taken this open, democratic kind of approach, and that's why we see the success. You know, we have all kinds of marketing going on. You know? So, and we're using traditional communications channels to really introduce a non-traditional type of media and technology.
Well, you covered a lot of incredible things. I want to dive into a couple of things, and first off, you know, with applying to what you're doing with spaceout VR, which, you know, I mean, very few people would argue that VR isn't one of the very next huge things. Already is huge. I mean, you have companies like Magic Leap that basically got $1 billion in equity investment, and other companies are beginning to get more and more equity investment. A competitor, I guess, possibly of yours, you know, Facebook, right, purchased them. So what from, you know, and going back to your startups with Pseudo, which I remember myself, and the people in our age demographic will 100% remember the radio in the beginning and what Pseudo meant. You could go on the internet and you would literally listen to the broadcast, but some of those things change very quickly. And, you know, everyone always wants to point out how, you know, Mark Cuban did with broadcast.com, but you guys were actually before them. And that whole marketplace, you know, I guess everybody wishes they could have found a group like Yahoo who would just pay for something that ended up being worth really essentially nothing, right?
Yeah. That was the bubble.
That was the bubble, right? So what about that whole process of raising the capital? Because there's so many people trying to raise capital. You're done it many times.
Yeah.
What have you learned? You know, from this point?
Well, you know, what I've learned is, you know, that there's a couple of different, you know, kind of models for raising capital for you as an entrepreneur. So I think the first model is really proving to yourself that what you're about to take on is actually going to be a viable business. And that could mean like kind of like doing an R&D phase on what your idea is, meaning that you would want to, you know, you're not just gonna put together a PowerPoint and close a seed round per se, unless you really build confidence with your investors. And unfortunately, what happens is friends and family tend to be that first 250K. And that's kind of exactly what we did with spaceout VR. So we were fortunate to have a few friends and family. Well, first of all, there's a pre-seed phase called that I think is extremely urgent and important for every entrepreneur to go through, which is a bootstrap. You know, you have to prove your idea before you expect to take money on, especially from friends and family. If your idea is not sound and maybe there's some holes in it, God forbid, you know, you take your friend's money, they're not going to be your friends. You take your family's money, you're putting things at risk. So, you know, blind faith and some crazy opportunity, you know, needs to be, first of all, worked out by you. So you have to do the legwork. You have to put in the initial, whatever, 5 or 10K to form a company, go through the legal process, hammer out your idea, prove it, test it, go talk to 100 people about the idea. See, that's how we did spaceout VR. So we had the idea and we made a weird little demo, and I was walking around Williamsburg showing it to hipsters, and they were totally freaking out. They were like, "Oh my God, man, you got a music virtual reality player? Holy cow, oh my God." And they were freaking out. And these are like the most obnoxious people you can imagine in terms of tastemakers, really critical. So that feedback really inspired me. So you want to take a prototype. You want to prove your idea, no matter what the idea is, even if it's like a financial algorithm for a black box trading system. You want to prove the idea before you take $1 in. And if you have to spend a little money to do that, you better be ready to do that, because there's no reason why you should put the burden to prove an idea on a third party. So that's the first thing: bootstrap, prove idea. Second is, unfortunately, the first cash usually. So this is where there's a couple different channels. So if you're a known quantity, like you're a senior executive at a major corporation with 20 years of highly credible experience and huge progress, and you have an idea that you want to pursue, yeah, you know what? Institutional early stage investors will consider you. If you're not that kind of person and you're a young person starting out, or college, or or a graduate student with a great idea, you might want to then go to some of the early stage channels like accelerators, incubators, submitting your business plan to different sorts of folks. But, I wouldn't rely on that. Again, what it comes down to is, if your model is sound, you should be able to, through friends and family, to network to the right investors. So that's kind of another recommendation. So you're on the one hand, you're out there throwing a wide net by applying to all these incubators and trying to get in the flow, because there's a flow. There's a big funnel of new ideas. I mean, the way it works is, here's new ideas and business opportunities. It's the top of the funnel, and the ones that get funded are down at the bottom of the funnel. So again, after your bootstrap period, which I recommend at least 3 to 6 months of proving your idea, I would say it's going to take you 6 to 9 months to find the right early stage seed round funding. And that you already probably need, before anybody gives you money, you probably need to be already 100% committed to working on this project, which means you probably need to give up your existing job or whatever, because again, no one's going to give you money if you're working full time at another location. So it's a big risk. It's no joke, and it's really brutal. And I think numbers like 1 of 10 companies actually make it, right. Or 1 in 100 even. I don't even know the numbers, but it's just I don't like to look at those numbers. I'm in plausible deniability about any kind of failure. So I'm a terminal optimist. The other part of it is luck. And that third part of luck is probably 80% of your success. But I don't mean blind, dumb luck. I mean creating your own luck. So as an entrepreneur, you better stick as many irons in the fire as you can. You better be out there plugging away. Always, so you talked about social media and how important that is. You know what? You can make a smoke and mirror. You can make a great page for free on all the social networks. You can make a great page, a website for free on one of those web platforms. But guess what? When you talk to somebody about your product or idea, you know what? They're going to go home and Google you anyway. So you got to make sure that all of your media is up to date, that everything is typo checked and spell checked and correct English or whatever language. You better make sure that you have your socials in order, because they're going to check you. And that's the first and foremost. So a lot of people fall short of that. They show old information or incomplete information, and that blows the trust with people. So while you're in that R&D phase, you better create a smoking mirror to have at least, your idea and your presence, and your presence known. After that, really it comes down to, what's your business plan? What's your business model? So, for example, I have a constant argument with my team about commercialization that, look what Facebook did. They didn't charge any money. I said, yeah, Facebook is like 1 in a billion of companies. Okay? We talk today, and you asked, what's the difference between 20 years ago or 17 years ago and today is that, we're limited to massive unicorns are the only real successes. So there's one IPO. Imagine in this quarter, we're looking at Snapchat, right? And it's a $3 billion IPO. It's like they suck the air out of the room. Like there's a big black hole in the marketplace. There's no diversity in this economy in tech anymore, you know? So
and if they fail, and if they fail, you know, if the IPO fails, people begin to retract on other IPOs, and other people are afraid to come forward and go with that.
Exactly.
Snapchat, there's a lot of, I don't know if you know, I utilize all these social medias with my business, and so I'm constantly always trying to research who's in it now, and so I can my marketplace, which is high school and college athletes, they live on this, right? So but Snapchat last quarter was down 86%. As far their growth was down 86%, so that's a huge stagnation for them, and probably primarily because of Instagram stories, but there's other factors.
Yeah, they stopped sexting. That's why.
Right. Because you can, and that's the thing. Like, you know, they transitioned it somewhat, you know, pretty successfully. We don't know how successfully, but if it doesn't go the way of Facebook and it goes more the way of Twitter's IPO, then the next group of tech firms, people are slow to, you know, obviously we're in the New York area. The financial institutions are slower to bring them to the marketplace. That affects a lot of tech.
Sure. I think that, you know, one thing just to point out that none of these unicorns will fail if they hit you know, if they hit their IPO, because failure for that means, so what? So Facebook shares were down from its opening high.
Right.
And now it's up 400%, 500%. Twitter, you know, it maintained itself from its IPO, but it was down on the IPO. So if you reach unicorn like Uber, Airbnb, these guys just are in the wings. You know, you're already set. Those companies are the blue chip companies of the future. Right. Now, of course, we don't know. Things can change. You know, this whole delete Uber thing, you know, there's all these weird cultural things that can come out of this that we still don't know. We can't measure. But you know, I think for being successful as an entrepreneur, you know, and I see you and myself, we're like serial entrepreneurs. Like, I don't think I ever got a job based on an interview. I make my own job. You know what I mean? It's like, I've never been unemployed, if ever, even in the worst situations with my, you know, I had a knee surgery. I was crippled. You know what I did? I freaking found all my old junk and started selling it on eBay, and I turned it into a $30,000 a year business, side cash, you know? So it's like, we can't help it. So the idea is to keep moving forward no matter what. Keep plugging at it. And that's how you get successful. Because again, like, making your own luck means get your freaking irons in the fire and make sure you got enough channels open to be reached. Make sure you're attainable. You're not hiding under a fake username on Facebook, you know. Or if not, make a separate account that's tied to your pristine business image.
Right.
Because that's the other problem with social. Maybe too much information, TMI. So I'm very careful. I only post select things, you know, like my travels maybe or something like that. But no, like, you know, bikini contest, party, tequila nights, you know, things like that. Try to avoid that, you know.
Nothing like the good old days in our 20s.
Yeah, because that's when we would just be pointing that out. Yeah, that would be what makes us cool.
What would you say is the biggest difference in tech from literally 15, 20 years ago, and not technology wise, but how things are perceived to now? Like, I remember when we were doing it, like, we go to a restaurant or we go out or we go to we were convincing people that what we were doing was cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, tech people are rock stars, basically, I mean, CEOs, everybody knows who they are. What are some of the things that you think has really changed from tech with that internet boom to now where it's become a mainstay marketplace?
Well, for the most part, it's the evolution of technology. Besides Moore's law, we those are the founding things that you got to always remember in engineering, that the more processing power, the easier it gets us to do things. Because these things are all stupid machines that make our lives easier. And as our lives get easier and easier, we can think about other things and invent new ways of perceiving reality, And not that I'm going to get all guru on you guys.
Yeah.
What I see is that the second nature aspect of certain instruments in life, like, you know, like smartphones having the computing power of 10 Apollo missions in one little device, you know, was inconceivable. But of course, we're at this stage where, you know, this stuff is second nature and seamlessly integrated into our daily lives. So means that without Google Maps, I can't drive around California. You know, I would crash looking at a map or trying to find, or I'd get lost, you know. So now we have the ability to expand our horizons very quickly. So what the human, I think the human is more like a sponge of all this stuff. So now we're sucking down all this information, especially young generations who now are like, don't think twice about you know, they don't even use email. They use Snapchat.
Yep.
Messaging. They don't even use, you know, so just to show you how far they've evolved, they don't, you know, it's rare that, you know, someone actually meets somebody without, or gets married to anybody without having a whole electronic side of their relationship, you know, let alone, you know, the physical side. So now we have two things to deal with. So life gets easier, but life gets harder because you have to be smarter about everything and more crafty. So like, the difference between the technology of today and yesterday is not much, but it's become more evolved. We've become more evolved as a society, so we have to deal with things differently, and we tend to focus our attention differently. So we have to, as technology makers, we have to take all that into account when we make new things. So that's why, for example, like in VR, so right now, I'll just share a little developer pain. So we had like 11 clicks to get onto our software. So my guys are like, the young developers on our team are like, dude, you got to be kidding me. What is this? You know, what is this, like a fax machine or something? You got to, like, you know, or like, oh my God. So now the new release will have 4 clicks and you're fully loaded into VR space, and the whole thing is as cool as it was, you know, having to go click, permission, click, enter, you know, it was stupid. So, you know, that's what I mean. That's how easier it is, you know, through technology today than it was 20 years ago. So things are streamlined, and you have to just really be aware of how smart people are today, and how, you know, you're not gonna pull the wool over consumers' eyes so fast with like, ooh, vaporware and things like that, or especially investors, you know, they want to see tangible results, you know,
and actually
show me your KPIs, you know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, key performance indicators. You know.
What I want to go into VR for a second. I'm going to jump around a little because I think I find it so fascinating. VR now, right? You know, so in its infancy, you know, I have one of those. I don't know where I put one. I have one of those VR screen, just like you showed before, right? So it's right. So you have the spaceout VR, and it exists in that realm.
Yeah.
How does it get where it is now to a realm where, you know, people could use it in their everyday lives, and how does that evolve?
Well, a couple of things. So, you know, if you look at the nature of the industry, and it's a pyramid, right, with the mass market, broader market being the bottom of the VR industry, that consists of mobile phone-based VR using the Google Cardboard SDK. Then if you move up a notch, you have mobile handheld platforms like Daydream VR from Google and Samsung Gear VR powered by Oculus. Those are 2 different SDKs that allow you to have maximum functionality of your device. So the upper tiers are then console and PC based. So that's where you have Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, and Sony PS VR. Those are the overall the entire scope of the industry. What happens is that there's a couple of other factors in terms of the relationship between VR and AR. So AR, augmented reality, is really the major promise of the world because of the masses, because basically that's going to have the day-to-day applications of hyper reality, where you're going to be overlaying digital information on real world conditions. You can't do that in VR per se, because you're immersed. It's a different platform, different mechanism. So I think that VR is going to end up becoming the entertainment and gaming and communications portal, whereas AR will become the platform for everyday use. Because think about it today. You buy a BMW, you have a heads-up display in the windshield showing you speed and gas and all that and direction. That's already AR. That's it. That's augmented reality. You're looking through your glass and you're seeing that, plus you're seeing the whole background. So you're totally, in that kind of space. So, that's at a basic level. As we get more and more advanced, so for example, Apple is promising something in AR this year. They bought a massive company. So what was his name? I was going to say Tim Jobs. Tim Cook. Tim Cook said that he sees about 15 years from now, when the iPhone does not exist, when it's all powered up in a thin pair of elegant glasses, because fundamentally you'll be able to use this for calls. You'll be able to use this for information overlay, reading prices, looking at the weather. You look up, you see the weather. All the information is going to be able to be transported to the focal point. So it's this. Then the other side of it, you talked about AI. So we just implemented AI because we thought that AI was a convenient way for our users to get onboarded. So now we have a talking panda. He's a panda corn he's a panda. So your panda now guides you through the setup of your spaceout in spaceout VR. Because I don't know if you're familiar with the app. Right. It's got a whole it's a personified sociable VR application that takes your personal social media and creates a VR world that's based on your profile and personality, that's created by IBM Watson on the back end.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a big deal. But there is a convergence, and you're absolutely right. What I see, my vision of a convergence, is this Internet of Things, IoT, plus AI and robotics and VR, AR. So by 2030, for example, you'll be walking down the street wearing your AR-enabled iPhone glasses, eyeglasses or whatever, and you'll be then interacting with the parking meter. The Pret-a-Manger store will have information for you as you walk by, soup of the day. You'll be also getting a phone call. You're then, AI robot just found 20 new stock picks for you to look at and make the decision on right now. And, as you're moving down the street, there's a couple of reminders. You can now, change your flight, book, so this is all happening in about 60 seconds of walking down, say, Broadway, and that's it. That's the level of processing when this all converges. And then, of course, your dog needs to be walked, so you just confirm your robot to go take the dog for a walk because you're not going to be home on time. And that's in 60 seconds.
How soon do you think? What do you think is the time? Like, obviously, pieces of this is starting to come together.
Yeah, pieces now. So they say 10 years. Yeah, I say 2025.
Okay, that makes sense.
Should be a good starting point. I say really that scenario I just described to you is probably around 2030. That's hyper reality type stuff. But just think about it, because even today, you're walking down the street, you're chatting.
You're on your phone,
you're on your phone, you're doing your stocks, you're doing your flights, you're doing your, babysitter, you're doing your Uber. And you're like, okay. Or now, and then we're talking. So IoT, driverless cars are going to be part of this, You're not even going to need Uber. You're going to be like, yeah, pick me up. Boom.
Right. Well, Uber, that's why they're in a race to try and get their own driverless cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Capitalize on that without people.
Yeah. So that's, I think, the vision, and I think we're quickly moving that direction. Because, Dave, I want to point out one thing.
Yeah.
These devices, they can't handle the computing we're putting through this. So we've found a way right now to push these devices to their maximum. They overheat and explode. The batteries die instantly when we're running our software. I love that. So this is a Google Pixel. This is the goddamn best phone. Sorry if I'm cursing, but this is the best phone I've ever got because it handles everything I'm throwing at it. The iPhone 6S, great phone, handles just about everything I could throw at it. Actually handles heat for VR 100% better. You can see the difference in the architecture between this and a Samsung. I mean, no offense to Samsung, but let me tell you something. This phone, I could demo this phone for 10 hours straight of VR, not a problem. I demo my S6 or S7 for more than 25 minutes. The phone shuts off for cooling.
Wow.
That's nuts. This one, I run immersive Daydream VR for an hour or two. Yeah, it's hot, but it never shuts off. So it just shows you the way the engineering and architecture is accelerating here to support the VR industry right now. And that's important. That's something that we have to really take note of because it's going to introduce a whole new generation of devices. Right now, players like Asus and Lenovo are coming out with their new Tango phones. You know what Tango is, bro?
No.
Man, you just point the phone around the room and it creates a digital 3D space of like your office or whatever.
Wow.
And now you could be setting up conferences. Like we could be having this conference face to face in a Tango driven video conference room just by holding up our phones like this. We'll just be like, hey, or whatever, just putting it down, boom. And that's it. So I saw Tango at CES. I'm so impressed, in the Qualcomm demo, but things like that are happening right this second. So that's going to be another part of the whole story.
Talk to me about spaceout and where
yeah.
where you see taking the company.
Sure.
Where's your space carved out? That
sure.
that you guys have in that world.
Yeah. Well, we're doing a couple things at once. One is the fact that we tend to be driven towards this kind of millennial EDM kind of future music, kind of dance culture driven product because that's where we're all about. Like me and my partner, we're kind of all into this whole, we're old school ravers and stuff. And basically we were part of the digital underground and the whole spiel. And kind of that's where we came from. And we find that this resonates very well with these 18 to 35-year-olds. Probably a nice 60-40 male-female split, which is incredible. We have really bizarre numbers that are really blowing people's minds, that we're like 80% 18 to 35, right smack on the nose, millennial, the holy grail of marketing today, that generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
The key for us is you have to understand at a very technical level, what we're doing is entertainment, gaming, and communications, just like we were doing 20 years ago, except the medium now has all kinds of capabilities. So one is, of course, the immersive nature of the product. So now you are able to use the 360-degree canvas as your desktop, okay? So that changes one thing, or as your viewing angle. The other thing is we're using this automagical process, which we're powered by AI just to simplify the whole process, really. It came out of necessity. It's not like a bell and whistle, like I woke up in the morning and said, oh, we need AI today. No, it was because we realized that a lot of people still don't know how to manipulate their devices.
Yeah.
Why should we put that bother on them? We're simplifying things through technology. So now, besides the 4 clicks, you don't even need to do anything. The Pandai is going to ask you, hey, how would you like me to build a room for you? Tell me something you like. Oh, I like the New York Giants. Oh, really? Okay, great. Here's a room I made for you about the New York Giants. And you can be like, wow, it's got all the Super Bowl, whatever, these guys, Yeah, or Patriots, sorry, I don't know, whoever. That was just, you was a football guy. What do you think of that?
That was unbelievable.
That's unbelievable. Right. And just the drive, that was just focus and drive, and that's a good analogy for business.
Yes.
If you're going to be Tom Brady of your company and you're going to say, you go here, you go there, and then I got the plays and I'm going to focus on getting this done, man, there's nothing can stop you. And he proved it. He steamrolled those guys.
Steamrolled it.
He crushed them.
It was amazing. I mean,
that was amazing.
At halftime, you're watching the game and you're like, oh, okay, at least they kick the field goal. Let's see if they can
kick the field goal, right?
And then next thing you know, in the end of the third quarter, they start rolling.
Was it 5 touchdowns or 4?
It was 4 touchdowns. Yeah,
4 touchdowns. That's sick. Right.
1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I guess the overtime. Yeah. So it unbelievable. That was second. That competitive drive. Like, I mean, and I like to relate that to business and football because people sometimes, it's I don't understand. Like you were an All-American fencer.
Right? Junior Olympic champ. Yeah, second place JOs, but UAA champion.
So people have a hard time. I've noticed taking some of that part of their life where they were focused in that realm, and then transitioning it to that competitive drive in business. Now we've been able to do it. We figured out that process. Where does your competitive drive come from? That you're able to generate excitement in every part of your entrepreneurial career. It's been this way. Now it's with your spaceout VR company that you're taking to the next level. How do you continually find that passion, that competitive drive to say, okay, the thing I'm focused on, develop this?
Right. This is what I say to most people because I work with a lot of interns, and I say there's one important, and even to my daughter who's 14, I've said this to her all her life. So why do you need sports, right? Sports at an early age, right, shows you one most important thing of business that you can never lose sight of. In order to understand how to win, you got to know how to lose, right?
It's true.
And in order to lose, some things, sometimes it happens. And how you accept that, how does it deter you or drive down your enthusiasm or mess up your motivation or make you unmotivated or ruins your life, guess what? You have to learn how to take those punches, take those hits, and get up, pull yourself together and march forward and try to get to that end zone, because basically you have to have those goals, and on your way to get to those goals is going to be, sometimes some battles you're going to win, some battles you're going to lose. Once I was told the greatest analogy, so I'm a marketing guy by nature. I'm sales and marketing. That's really what my specialty is. I was told a great analogy about marketing, which is you look at marketing like World War II. The goal was to defeat the Axis forces. That was the goal. The strategy was to use combined Allied forces to do that. The tactics would be to create different attacks on the defenses of the Axis forces, starting with D-Day in Normandy, the next battle, that will eventually destroy the Axis troops. Same thing in marketing. So what's the goal? I need, to accomplish my business plan, I need 10 million millennial women to sign up for my product. Okay, right. I'm going to use digital media, social media. I'm going to use digital advertising, paid media, earned media, and owned media to do that. I'm going to create campaigns that target these millennials, that these, and this demographic using this campaign. Here's a creative idea. Here's a creative idea 2, creative idea 3, key message 1, key message 2, key message 3. And these campaigns are eventually going to help me achieve my goal.
Right.
And these are the KPIs that I have to measure. So I won D-Day. I landed 9,000 troops on the beach. Okay. I won this. I got 9,000 enrollments on my lipstick site because I got, I did well at this targeting these Lady Gaga during the Super Bowl. I piggybacked on her hashtag, and I managed to get 9,000 girls to sign up for free. Type of, so, and then you look at your cost per acquisition, your cost per install, your whatever you're doing.
It's the overall strategy, and then each little win you have, each little success you have, builds upon itself.
Exactly.
Towards
right. And this way, you're managing also the losses. Okay, so I spent $10,000 and I only got 100 people to sign up. That's a tremendous loss. I don't have any more money to spend now. What do I do? Well, you have to continue marketing, bro. So figure it out. You better start going into chat groups. Excuse me. You better start doing things that will enable you to get that goal.
And that is the other thing that I think that you touched on, that continuous battle that you have to be willing to fight as an entrepreneur. And you probably see this with the generation behind us, the millennials, because they have so many of these tools at their disposal, and they're used to getting things instantaneously. That ability as an entrepreneur to keep fighting, because there is ebbs and flows, there's wins and losses, and that ability to keep trying to find the next win. So you lose money here. I think you mention it. You say, okay, you spend X, Y, Z dollars in, let's say, marketing on Facebook, or you spend it, at a trade show, and it didn't get you what you think you should have got. Well, you got to figure out a way to make that money up. So, you're right when you go back to what you said initially, where Facebook was able to make their thing free in the beginning. 99% of the business people will be out of business in 6 months a year if they're doing something like that, and it's a pipe dream. So you've got to get people, convince them that spending some money with your company, your product, is worthwhile. When you lose in a certain area, you got to figure out new ways to win. I think that creates innovation in your thought, and it's funny, some of the times that I've been most successful, and people always, we went to college, right? And I got my MBA, and you remember they would talk to you about like planning and prepare. And I always found that when my back's been against the wall and something that I didn't want to happen is when I've made my best plays. And, and that's, I think, a quality as an entrepreneur. Is that you keep trying to find those wins. So when your back does get against a wall occasionally, hopefully it's only every once in a while, but whenever it does happen, you're able to fight through it and figure out that next win. I want to jump to something that also you touched on, because of the marketplace with your product. Now, those of you who are listening to this podcast, they don't know our background history. We worked together. The company that I was with at the time, Channel Communications, was a traditional web development company, and you were with Venture Highway, and they were one of the first crowdsourcing companies, and we were developing. It was all new ground. So. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting, and you were the client, and I was the consultant.
Spent $1 million there, Dave, on a website.
I know. You wish you probably could have done that one. Like,
now we could do that for $20,000, right?
Exactly. So what I thought was interesting is when we would go out, and I tell people this story all the time. We went out to dinner somewhere, and then you took me to a quote unquote club or party, right? And so we're going, and I don't know where we're driving to, and then we arrive, and there's like this red like there's like a red illuminated light in front of the building, and there's no sign on the door, and you walk in, and I would say you were like the mayor of the place, like you knew everybody, and it was like a really cool scene. And something who, I was living in New York, but you're really a New Yorker, right? And so you knew your networking and your ability to to develop a network that can help you be successful. People struggle with this, right? And I had to learn it myself. I always relied on my intelligence to do things and thought I could fight. But I learned one of the things I learned from you, and this is really a tribute, is that the ability to network and connect people and connect yourself in the process is so critical. And so I learned it when I came in there, and I couldn't even tell anybody how to get there. Okay, when we went, like I couldn't, I was like, "What? This place was great. We had a great time." And with ladies and people you knew and business, and you were able to bring all those things together. And now you're doing the, I think that's one of the great things about, the passion that you have for that networking and bringing people together, and obviously with music, and that's where you're connecting with Space Out VR, and that's where I think, you're relying on your passion and the things that you're interested in. But networking, how did you, where did that development come from in your background? And, and you were young at the time. You identified that really early, much earlier than most people would, Tell me a little bit about that process.
Well, I mean, that's something that you can't learn, and you can't buy, and you can't, you could try, but, the thing about my approach to my early business careers was about, really being open and friendly. So you, as like a business friend of mine, I would mix with people I would know who you thought were like cool and glamorous and stuff like that. But you would get this sense of, belonging to my network. So you would feel welcome. And that's the most important thing. When you make friends with people in business, so I just attended a conference in Los Angeles, and what was great was, it was the digital entertainment world, and I went out there. I had a couple meetings specifically for VR, and there was a whole bunch of VR segment parts of this. But it wasn't that I was necessarily looking at the opportunity to build definitive concrete business. I wasn't looking to sign any contracts per se with anybody. I wasn't selling them anything. But what I was doing was shaking hands, meeting people, and then merging people that so I would be like, hey, Jim, have you met Bill? Bill, meet Jim. So Bill's doing this great thing. Jim's doing this. But you know what? You guys think that, I'm glad you guys have you seen my product? Both of you? You know what I mean?
Right.
And are you doing anything in VR? So genuine interest, genuine openness. But just keeping your eye on the ball, meaning that, what it is you're trying to achieve. So basically, I probably wanted to make sure that you you felt some sort of gratification for working with me, because I was grateful for the work we were doing. And it's kind of like not only a reward, but I felt like hopefully you're getting something out of it, being exposed to this glam club scene, VIP thing, whatever I was doing, who the hell knows, man. But that's the nature. But that's the air of celebrity. I mean, this goes into deep narcissistic trends and tendencies of celebrity and that sort of thing. And I happen to be that. If I'm not on Facebook, I'm not public personality yet. I think it's when you hit 5,000 or more users or friends, they put you as public. What is it? Public persona or something.
Okay.
So that's what we need to strive for now.
Right.
But the great news, Dave, it's a great segue, because this is all done electronically now. So if I was just looking at the number of Facebook friends I have 3,700 Facebook friends, mostly hot girls from Russia. But I do a couple things. I do exactly what I was doing back then when you knew me, when we knew each other. I have two groups, NYC VIP. Those are like a group of my close friends. And I share content and events and things that I do and PR stuff and blah, blah, blah. Then I do the same thing in Moscow, because I lived in Moscow for 10 years. Right? So what I've done there is I've even made a little blob of humanity, really strong VIP crowd that gets rewarded by having access to the parties and things that I do, you know? So I'm doing the same thing in social media. So I have a group, and I made subgroups of my friends that I share certain things with, you know? Then I have my corporate pages, which I don't share any of that stuff.
Right. You share your depth, and that's another thing you do great with, and that's that depth of driving the relationship so people feel connected.
Yeah.
And obviously that's going to translate into what you're doing business wise, because that's a huge key. Tell me about Russia. Tell me what it was like.
Oh man,
living in Russia.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was good. I went to Russia for personal reasons. I got a divorce, and I was missing my daughter, and I didn't want her to grow up without a father. So I just packed up, basically in 2004. I did a corporate social response. I found a corporate social responsibility project to bring wireless internet kiosks into public schools that I brought to Russia, and Coca-Cola sponsored it. So that's what kind of set me up. I didn't go there broke. You know, I didn't go there with no business idea. I went there with this corporate social responsibility project. I did shut down my New York businesses because they basically, after 9/11, it was so hard to raise capital. The city was down. There was zero negative growth, you know, in 2003 in Manhattan. It was just a dead zone. So I picked up, and when I got there, Dave, it was the most incredible thing. The GDP of Russia was growing like 10%. You know, 10%, not like 1/10 of 1% or whatever the hell it was going on. 10%. And that meant that the money and the growth and the new buildings and the new restaurants and the new lifestyle was just building there, you know? So for me, it was incredible. And I speak Russian, so it was kind of like, you know, whatever. So I got over there, and I was received by first of all, I had a deal with the Moscow Department of Education, so I had connections already at the highest levels of government in Moscow, like the mayor's office, basically.
Right.
So I was invited to all these events, and I was doing these UNESCO dinners and all kinds of fancy diplomatic events, and I was like this digital guy. So I got there, and I saw the best of the best, you know. Right. And then I started, you know, exploring, and still I had my daughter and my ex-wife, and, you know, we were getting along fine. I spent the weekends with my daughter. During the week I was working in Moscow. And eventually I really connected deeply with a lot of fantastic business people, because there for 10 years or so, everything was new. But then it came to it was just like a super wave. So me being American with my PowerPoint capabilities already intact, like having all the basic business planning materials and stuff, I did a really strong business out of consulting. And that's how I ended up becoming the business development rep for Russia for Yahoo, because I came out of a financial group that wanted to license Yahoo for Russia. And then Yahoo said, nah, but Dennis, let's open up shop here. Here's a purchase order. How much is your hourly rate? I'm like 200 an hour, 200 euros an hour. They're like, oh yeah, okay, fine. Here's a purchase order. Let's get started. So I was doing corporate development, business development, and product development. Corporate development on the M&A front, business development, I set up the whole advertising sales channels, and product development, I set up yahoo.ru and hired a team. We translated the whole Yahoo portal, you know, syndicated content. It was a whole deal. So that was 5 years I did that.
And you saw the good and the bad of
I saw the good, the bad, and then things went south. And that's the problem in these new democracies, that, you know, there's still a lot of tension. There's, you know, Russia's driven by nationalism today, and that's what basically our new government's focused on, is building the sense of national pride. I don't know what it's going to get us, because that's only making Americans hate America more. You know, it backfires here, you know. But in places like Russia, that's a big deal. I'm Russian. I'm going to kick ass, you know, because they have so much insecurity, because they suffered tremendously under communism. They suffered under perestroika. It was a mass genocide of people our age. Most men would live to 50 years old because of alcohol, drugs, and mafia. Not drugs even, just alcohol, bad diet, stress, and mafia. People were getting murdered on the streets because it was a power grab. So then this guy comes along, and you see where it is today. Now he's grabbing other countries.
Right.
It's the same mentality. It's terrible. So the whole thing, unfortunately, fell apart in 2014 for me. So I moved back. I had to have knee surgery. But I'll tell you, those 10 years were golden, man. You know, man, just like, first of all, clubs running 24/7, the most gorgeous women you've ever seen, natural, gorgeous beauties that were just so friendly with me, man, you know, because I spoke just enough Russian.
Right.
To be dangerous and, you know, and amazing times, like just learning the whole history and the culture and like being out there and doing saunas in the woods that, you know, they bring in, you know, the booze, the food, you know, I mean, just incredible. So I brought all that back with me. So Dave, whenever you get a chance, come out to visit me at home in Long Island. And, I'll show you the ropes. I got the Russian banya sauna. I got the jacuzzis. I got the pool. So, you know, it's like the real, what they call Russian dacha. But overall, you know, I was really grateful because I got to really infiltrate the highest levels of Russian culture and government and entertainment circles and
Very interesting.
Doing my thing in advertising world, you know, Olympics, the whole spiel.
That's right. The Olympics came
The
through.
Sochi Games. Yeah. That's another reason why I ended up with Yahoo there, because that was the initial idea that we would help them with the Sochi Games. So.
Very cool. I think people can take away, first of all, you know, your eternal optimism is tremendous. I mean, I think that, you know, people, and I'm coming out with something pretty soon on this with positivity. When people, you know, want to downplay it, but I see it so prevalently in my life is where, you know, you see people that stagnate in because they're not really optimistic or positive to where they can go. They sell themselves short. And I think people underestimate the ability to be positive and optimistic and how far mentally that can take you. People don't realize how far that can really take you by just keep plugging and being positive. What do you, as we wrap it up here, because I guess we do have to go about our day. What are some of the things that you think are real critical, if you had 2 or 3 things that someone who's an entrepreneur starting out can really take away to give them a chance for success?
Well, again, do your homework, and be ready to bootstrap before you take $1 in. So if you don't have the time and money to invest yourself, then forget it. Okay. 2, be ready to lose, but be ready to win. So put as many irons in the fire as possible, even in the silliest forms of just you reaching out, calling somebody, sending an email, you know, going to a mundane industry event that you don't know anybody. Just show up, stick your hand out and say, "Hi, I'm Dave." You know, so be there, be in the game, put irons in the fire. Every time you make an intro, you're putting an iron in the fire. So anytime you're sharing your idea, you're putting an iron in the fire, okay? And third, I think, you know, really understand what your goals are. You know, give yourself, you know, get the ideal picture. Like, what the hell do you want? Do you want a business that's worth money, or do you want a business that's solving a problem in the world? Do you want a business, you know, have goals and then figure out what tactics and strategies you're going to use to attain those goals. And again, the 4th thing is, I have to say, make your own luck, and don't be shy. Don't be bashful. Everybody, you know, you'll eventually get your pitch right, and, you know, that'll be good.
Where can people find you? They want to know more about space.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. LinkedIn, you can find me, Dennis Adamo. Facebook, Dennis Adamo. You can find my company, spaceoutvr.com. We're fully integrated, fully looked. Most importantly, download spaceout.vr on your App Store or Google Play. And, you know, if you don't have a VR headset, buy a spaceout premium viewer. They're really the best. So, that's all I could say.
Listen, this has been fantastic.
Excellent.
I really enjoy connecting, and I'm going to take you up on the Long Island thing.
Yeah.
I know you do things right.
Come to Russian Long Island.
I'm taking you up on that. I definitely want to see that, and thanks for being on. We'll have this out real shortly with you.
Looking forward.
All right.
Thanks, David. Take care, bud.
Bye.
Bye.